Welcome everybody to the European Masters. My name is Scoundrel and I'll be kicking off the day with Foxdrop today. Do you know, I was watching that intro and I think it absolutely sums up what I love about European Masters, and I specifically love the line where Medic says, Mad Lions are the Masters of Europe, because we now know that Mad Lions are the LEC champions, and that really does sum up like what European Masters is about. It's about that ability to go from that very baseline, like almost semi-pro level, to being professional, fully fledged, esports players at the very top of Europe. So it's absolutely insane, and that's what we're here to celebrate. And we are now halfway through the group stages, Foxy. We are all the way through our first 4 days. We've got 4 more to go. Each of our days will be focusing in on a particular group. Today will be Group B, and we're sort of getting that rounded out results that we're going to see with the likes of Rogue and G2 Arctic.
Yeah, exactly. You're just seeing on your screen here too. This is when they first met earlier last week. Honestly, G2 Arctic not getting off to the best start. They're sitting at a pretty measly 0-3 so far. Not much more room for error here. SuppUp, however, have been surprising in a positive way. This is the team coming out from the Balkans, 2-1 as our Rogue and Misfits, tied in first place with those other 2 teams. And, you know, this is a team that we didn't have huge expectations for, but so far not only subverting our expectations, but actually have a good shot of making it out of the group alongside, you know, these 2 teams who we thought on your screen right now would be the 2 main competitors of Group B, Misfits and Rogue, are both really, in very different fashions, being dominant in their own ways.
Yeah, they've got very different play styles, and I'm sure in our second game of the day we'll see those guys match up. This was, by the way, this was disgusting, Certus.
Yeah, he bends the bullet. Absolutely.
He's like wanted, but Zoe form. Let's have a look at Group B right now. You can see all of the groups as of which they generally have a favorite. Like Group A with Big, 3-0. Group C, UCAM, 3-0. Group D, Carmine Corps, 3-0. But in Group B, that ain't the case. Ego, Rogue, Misfits, Premier, and SuppUp all at 2-1 with G2 Arctic down at 0-3. So we really do have a banger of a day coming your way, because there is a very good chance for tiebreakers. There's a very good chance for upsets. And, you know, specifically, what Foxy said is SuppUp, no one really thought that they would be in this situation at 2-1. We haven't had a team from the Balkans do well realistically in terms of getting out of groups since 2018. So it's been a while since we've really seen the Balkans ramp up and show us what they've got. SuppUp are absolutely subverting expectations. And one of their wins did come against G2 Arctic last week, who are they going to be playing in the first game of the day.
And as I said earlier, G2 Arctic at 0-3 in those standings is not looking too hot for them, and they can't afford to drop any games. Obviously, starting here with SuppUp. This is when they played last week. You can see Spooky massive on that Volibear, and he's going to do it again with his Volibear flank. This is something where just SuppUp have been able to find these team fights, and I think it's so important in the current meta if you can have these strong team fights. You're seeing like teams like SuppUp actually have a lot of success just through that, basically, and it's a real joy to watch as well. I think it's pretty entertaining League of Legends, and SuppUp as a team, I would absolutely love if the Balkans can make it out of groups, because as you say, it hasn't happened since 2018, and the Balkans are always underdogs, and they always throw out a few upsets, just can't quite push themselves over the edge.
Yeah, and I think this is going to be a big test for them today, because they have to redo that performance from last week, essentially, to sort of put themselves in a good, strong position to get out of the groups. I mean, having a look at the other side of the coin, though, G2 Arctic, they were the regular season winners over in the LVP. So, like, they came out of the Spanish team being regular season winners, then struggled when it came to playoffs. But this is a team that clearly has what it takes to perform at a very high level. Yet when they came through play-ins, once they beat Fnatic Rising, something kind of stopped them from performing. They've had a tough time this week, and this game is of the utmost importance. If they lose this game now, there's no way they're getting out of groups. That's it. I think it's pretty much done for them. So this is a huge, huge game where they have to bring everything that they've got for our first game of the day.
Yeah, G2 Arctic, you know, they never made it into groups before. The LVP as a region, I would say, they were one of our strongest regions, as you saw in the pre-roll. Mad Lions have won it all with, I think it was 2018 summer, I think that was. But really since then, I don't think that the LVP, the Spanish league, has really lived up to our expectations. We always thought they were one of the strongest regions here in Europe. But since then, you know, it's been the LFL, the French league, it's been the Polish league, even the German scene has stepped up. And really, I just think for the LVP, for the Superliga, it's important. You know, at least for G2 Arctic, like obviously you're staring down it at 0-3, but you've got to do something here, right? You can't bow out of E-Masters 0-6. Imagine a team going 0-6 in a group stage in an event. That's TSM level of embarrassment right there, and G2 Arctic definitely trying to avoid that one.
Yeah, Spain's an interesting region because I don't think they've won since 2018, but they have had consistency in getting to top 4 in a lot of scenarios. Now, 2020 wasn't exactly their year for European Masters, but as with any major region, and Spain especially, you can never really count them out. Like, they have that potential to just pop off and really start that storm. But I mean, Arctic need the storm this week. They need to bring their best because they need to essentially win every game from here on out. Bans are coming through. No surprises to see the Seraphine ban, especially against a SuppUp from what they were able to do with it last week. More importantly, what they were able to do against Arctic with it last week. And some extra bans coming through here as well. Nocturne, Thresh, no surprises with the Tristana and the Hecarim too.
Yeah, Nocturne and Thresh have been 100% banned so far versus SuppUp every single game in the groups here. And this Tristana, I think, is a really smart adaptation as well. She's seeing a lot of high priority in the meta. And when G2 Arctic, like you say, they were first place in the regular season, they got into which gave them a bye into the semi-finals where they fell 0-3. And in that series, Tristana was banned every single game. So it does seem to be a pretty decent champion for you to take off of the board here against G2 Arctic. And that's exactly what SuppUp are going to do here, giving them the first pick. There's a lot of decent champions actually available. Hecarim being down means that, you know, like the likes of like the Udyr and the Volibear are probably going to see a lot higher value as well. But you know, there's a lot of, I think both these teams are quite varied champion pools as well. So predicting where it goes in draft, it's going to be interesting. There it is. The Orianna is going to be that first lock-in, very strong in the meta right now, and just. Yeah, like Orianna has no like obvious flaws, so it's a very good champion if she's in meta to just first pick and just take it away.
We've seen a lot of teams starting to blind Orianna very early on in pick and ban phase here, and Arctic have just said, you know, Fresh, let's give him the Orianna, see how he goes. It's something that we really want to sort of facilitate for our team comp. And as you said, like one of the things that SuppUp were really good at doing against Arctic was team fighting, like getting to that later stage of the game and team fighting. And maybe Arctic is saying, well, let's build a really strong team fight comp and try and beat them at their own game. But we have an immediate retaliation with the Akali and the Rell. Akali has been seeing a lot of priority over the last couple of days as well of European Masters play.
Absolutely. I think Akali does pretty well into a champion like Orianna too, because Orianna doesn't tend to put a huge amount of pressure onto you. So it allows Akali to kind of just chill out in the early game, which she wants to do. And then she can take it to a side lane, whereas Orianna can't really match her in that situation. Orianna's much more for those team fights, you know, much more for that lane phase, kind of like wave control and stuff like that, maybe playing more around your team. Akali more of that selfish style. So we're seeing already with that Akali lock-in, you know, if SuppUp can get like favorable side lanes, they can play through that 1-3-1, which they have had success at doing last week.
We'll see the Lillia locked in. So as you said, there were things like the Udyr and the Volibear available, but Koldo very happy to just go for the Lillia, something that can match in terms of farm and sort of pace of clearing of the jungle. Feels a little bit more like they're gearing up for a big Wombo-y kind of team fight, though, because that Lillia comes in as more of like a setup for the team fights, maybe rather than the Udyr looking to take control of the early game or the Volibear.
I'm not a huge fan of it, too. Oh, blimey. Okay. You know what? Okay. So Kayn wasn't really expecting to see that one come through. We have Volibear and Udyr both open, by the way, and we're going to get Kayn versus Lillia. So both these champions farm really, really fast. Blue Kayn is seeing more rise in popularity than Red Kayn is right now. With Prowler's Claw, there's some like really funky builds you can do on him as well, including like Mana Mute and stuff like that. It's pretty strong, but it does mean you have 2 assassins as your mid jungle, which is going to be interesting to see how that one works out. But a lot of farming in that early game. You know, Kayn wants to chill out, wants to get that form first of all. It might not even be Blue Kayn, by the way. Obviously, this is my assumption on the strength of the meta right now, but obviously like Red Kayn, I think generally speaking, fits team comps a bit easier. But either way, we're seeing the mids and mid jungle and support here being picked. So it's going to be pinching the AD carry pool for both of these teams. They're going to have to dig pretty deep, actually, because it's already 4 bot lane bans going through. I would imagine they're going to keep not doing that, obviously, as I was about to say, as the gangplank's going to get taken away here instead.
Varus gets thrown away. VZZ, a very, very good Varus player as well. So specifically trying to target one of the stronger players on the SuppUp lineup. The Sion comes through for klowny in the top lane. So they now have that beefy front line. Arctic have that option for a counter pick. It does strike me as odd that they wouldn't have gone for the AD carry here. But maybe just, you know, VZZ really wants a very strong lane matchup if he can help it in the bottom side of the map. And he has always been the standout player for SuppUp, has had plenty of accolades in his home region in the EBL. So I wonder if we'll see him just trying to find something that really favors him with the Aatrox locked in. We'll see a very late game scaling team coming out from G2 Arctic with the Sivir. This screams team fight right now. They have got a big team fight comp.
Yeah, and a run fast comp as well. But that actually has a lot of good synergy with the rest of the G2 Arctic lineup. You know, Alistar getting him to run fast is great. The Lillia, who just prances around really quickly as well, and the Aatrox with his world ender up, who just tears through team fights. I think it's pretty good synergy there actually for the Sivir. But as you say, very heavy on that late game. Going to be answered with the Samira from VZZ. Now, Samira hasn't been the most popular ADC recently, but is very strong in skirmishes, and also with the Rell, a very heavy like engage style champion. Samira is one of the better AD carries, following up engages and playing aggressive in that lane. So, you know, VZZ, Mersa going for more of that style, and I think it's pretty obvious here from the side of G2, like, it's definitely scaling. Scaling's the name of the game there. It's kind of hard. I'm still curious to see what type of Kayn this is going to be. Like I say, I think blue is stronger right now, but I'm not quite sure if like blue Kayn plus Akali is the best combination. But we'll have to see it as we get into game.
I'm very interested in SuppUp's comp because it really feels to me like if you look at the mechanics of that team fight wants to go, they are essentially saying, okay, Sion and Rell throw down as much CC as possible, and then our 3 assassin-type champions are just going to go in and blow people up. Like, just try and find someone to blow up. The other way that I guess I see that planning out is you've got an Akali, you've got a Sion. You could technically 1-3-1 if you wanted to. If your Akali gets rolling, it is something that you could do. But my issue is that you're lacking a little bit of wave clear. So you might struggle in terms of like against that comp that you're going into. Like you might struggle trying to prevent mid lanes coming through. But we are heading on to the Rift relatively soon. G2 Arctic need this win, Foxdrop, and SuppUp, if they pick up a win here, could put some real pressure on this group and potentially see the EBL leave and get into those playoff brackets.
If the Balkans want to make it out of groups the first time in 3 years, pretty long actually, then yeah, this is definitely one of those games you can't afford to drop. Pretty much for both teams. Like for both teams, if you're looking to pick up games, I would argue that G2 Arctic and SuppUp are probably the teams that you want to do it, just because of how strong Misfits and Rogue have looked. So for SuppUp as well here, like, you know, this team played really well in week 1. Like I don't want to like talk about how the Balkans are, you know, like underdogs and they come in with like low expectations, because I also think when you say things like that, it kind of puts a bit of a damper on how they've performed and gives the impression that maybe it was like lucky or just like, you know, I don't think it gives 100% credit to the team, but I really do want to emphasize like SuppUp played really good. They were really good in week 1, and G2 Arctic absolutely not so. Really not that good.
Yeah, it was a shadow of the performance that they had against Fnatic as well. I mean, take a look at their stats, Foxy. In their first week, they were on average 3.2k gold down at 15, with a low average game time of 29 minutes and 29 seconds.
So what's really interesting about this stat is G2 Arctic they're like bottom 3 or top 3, I should say, for game time. And the others, Misfits and Karmine Core, I think. But the other 2 teams do it by winning. G2 Arctic do it by losing. And in this game specifically, hold this thought here. This is going to be a jump on. There's the engage.
Going in onto Supa. They are absolutely having no chill in this lane right now. Exhaust has to be burned and heal gone already. Supa put under pressure in this bot lane.
Okay, so what I was going to say is for a team that doesn't have doesn't have a long game time, picking full scaling might be a little bit of an oopsie, right? It doesn't really play into your strengths, and trades like that definitely aren't going to help you scale up. You're going to be playing from the back foot right off the get-go here, which isn't ideal for G2 Arctic, but a good start there for SuppUp, a good engage in the bot.
Yeah, level 1 all in on to the Sivir, a lot of pressure down. Oscarinin just trying to pressure out klowny on this top side of the map too, and Spooky just happily clearing his topside jungle. Going to head down towards the bottom. We see a reflected mirror clear here, or reflected jungle clear. Both junglers full clearing their red side. Probably going to do something similar on blue. I'm going to end up heading to opposite Scuttle Crabs. Sorry, it's the first game of the day. Just got to get my tongue in place, Foxy. You know.
Yeah. Of course. And it's all about the warm-ups, you know. But unfortunately for these teams, I don't think they have the luxury of doing that. I think these teams really need to hit the ground running. It is week 2, obviously, in groups, second round robin. And for both of these teams, as we mentioned before, really important you pick up this game if you do want to stand a chance of going further in this tournament. And just to pick up of where you're talking about with the junglers, both of these junglers are doing that cheeky little thing where you can take Grump and blue buff at the same time to optimize your clear. Junglers who have strong AoE clears can do this. Kayn and Lillia are both those types of junglers. They're both now on the crab as well. It doesn't look like it's going to be a blue Kayn, by the way, just checking from those runes. Dark Harvest tends to be more of that assassin focus. As Spooky's going to slide in here. I don't think G2 are going to see him at all. Ooh.
No, he has not been warded out here, and they are level 2 right now also. I think Mersa looking for the engage. Now, they have got flashes available, so you don't want to spend too long, and you can see that the Arctic bot lane are not too concerned with pushing past their turret right now.
Yeah. Oh, let's see. But okay, so the minion wave for SuppUp here is so bad for this gank. It's really just a waste of time. You can see Koldo now has a 2-camp advantage because he was able to go from the crab straight into his chickens and his Krugs, whereas Spooky was hovering around bot side. Now, I think it's a bit of a waste of time because of the way the minion wave was positioned there. Like, it's pushing towards G2 Arctic. Like, you're not going to be able to gank them. Like, it's just not going to happen. So instead, Spooky, you know, just kind of puts himself a little bit behind in tempo, is able to pick up those CDR boots though, which is nice on all junglers. Again, Lillia has also bought them. You know, having move speed is pretty underrated on junglers, so you can move around the map even faster. But for champions that rely on their abilities, as Kayn and Lillia do, spamming their Q clearing, then having those CDR boots is actually a pretty decent DPS increase as well in the early game.
So I just want to talk a little bit about how we expect this game to pan out, because for G2 Arctic, you mentioned it in Champion Select, it is very much name of the game is scaling. So does that mean that the pressure is on SuppUp to actually make something happen? Like, if nothing happens, do you think that just favors G2 Arctic?
I think that's a good question, because I would say that whereas G2 Arctic definitely do have very strong team fight scaling, I think that SuppUp also have scaling elements, but not necessarily in the same way that G2 Arctic do. So for example, someone like Kayn and Akali, as this game goes on, you're going to be able to one-shot the Sivir. You know, the Orianna and the Lillia will be vulnerable as well, but will most likely itemize into Zhonya's, so be less likely for them to be as vulnerable against assassins. It's Mersa. That's a TP. Yo. Aatrox is coming down.
Yeah, that is
first blood.
I mean, Mersa just massively overextended here. He really wanted to stop those backs. Whoa. I mean, VZZ might be dying as well. He flashes in. Oscarinin picks up the kill. Big TP. They're going to deny a huge amount of minions away from the SuppUp bot lane too. That was a disaster.
That was greedy from SuppUp right there. Mersa just wanted to stop the recall here from the AD carry. Just, you know, whatever, be annoying, all that lovely business. But look at this TP that comes through at the top right of your screen. There it is. As soon as this TP comes through, like, VZZ can't fight, right? This is why it looks so one-sided, why Mersa's just dying for free, because VZZ can't help him. But my goodness, does Aatrox do a lot of damage. When you hit those sweet spots, holy moly, he didn't even have any damage items at that point. Like, he had a coal. He had Doran's shield and a coal. That was all he had in that moment. Didn't have his ulti. Yeah, just way too greedy there from SuppUp.
This is a good start, though, if you're G2 Arctic and you need this win. Getting a double kill in the bot lane, a very nice pickup. And that now may embolden them to sort of be more aggressive around these neutral objectives, look to take a couple more fights where they think they can. Not a huge gold lead, nonetheless. You know, it's only about 800, but a start like that may be good for motivation and confidence in terms of playing out this game.
I think that gold lead, you know, only being 1k, sure, but from like a numerical standpoint, it's not a huge amount, as you say. But I do like what you brought up. Like, for motivation reasons, G2 Arctic have had terrible early games, really terrible early games. So to be in a game where you have a good start means a lot. It looks like they might even get a better start here. It's another gank bot.
You're going straight onto VZZ. He's going to get locked in the alcove, trying to get 1v1'd out by Wachon on the Alistar, they'll pick up the kill onto Mersa on the top side here. VZZ now immediately locked up, dives away, but he will eventually drop to Koldo. I think he should be able to pick him up. Surely Koldo gets the kill here. He does. VZZ will drop, and another double kill, and another huge wave being denied by G2 Arctic.
Yeah, that's absolutely huge for G2 Arctic. Like, getting Sivir this far ahead in the early game is just beautiful, and especially from like SuppUp, like the most proactive lane you had in this game was your bot lane, and already now they're starting to run it down, and it's just going to really stifle that early game. As you can see, it's just a little bit too far forward. And if you remember, that very first gank of the game was kind of gank attempt there from Spooky in the bot side, or when he was even maybe just shadowing his team. It's all about the minions and the minion wave positions. If the minion waves are pushing towards your team, then it does mean it's easier for you to gank. If it's pushing away from your team, it's harder. And in that situation, the minions were pushing into G2 Arctic. So an easy gank for them to execute right there. Perfect start for these guys.
And as you said, their early games have generally been atrocious. And I say that with the utmost respect for G2 Arctic, but 3.3k or whatever it was behind at 15 minutes in general has not been a good first week for them, but they are starting to really ramp it up. This is a much more confident performance from our Spanish team. And again, on a game where they need a win. They absolutely need a win. There is no way they get out of this group if they lose here to SuppUp. So getting that first step is important to them in terms of their chances of getting out of this group.
And don't let their scoreline fool you either. 0-3 winless. That is suboptimal. It's not great. But this is a team that finished first in the regular season in the Spanish league, made their way all the way through the play-ins. This isn't a bad team by any means. I think they definitely underperformed in week one. And so this game right here, you've got a scaling team, you've got a good early game lead. These are all perfect starts for you if you are looking to get on that board and make that, I don't want to say miracle run because it's very overused in EU League of Legends, but legit, if you want to make it out of groups after starting 0-3, then this is the perfect start.
And also, I don't want to take credit, I don't want to take anything away from SuppUp here as well. They had a very, very rough early game versus Misfits Premier. And they still ended up winning the game just through to pure execution in team fights and some really good plays around neutral objectives. So for SuppUp, they aren't in a position where, you know, they are completely untenable for them. It looks like Spooky's going aggressive here onto Supa, diving in, maybe forced to jump away though, looking to just, I think, stack up and get some more orbs towards that blue transformation.
Exactly, this is the thing with Kayn when you're not having a proactive early game, which is pretty par for the course, honestly, on Kayn. Like, it's just the way he's designed. Like, he's meant to hit that power spike when he gets the evolution, and before that point isn't a massive force in the game. But if you're not having that early game pressure, if you're not fighting and skirmishing early, then you're not going to get that evolution as fast as you would like. And obviously, as I mentioned, evolution is that power spike. For Blue Kayn specifically, you want to be hitting range champions. If you hit melee champions, then you're going to be evolving into Red Kayn, which you don't want, because if you do hit that Red Kayn criteria, that threshold, where you've collected too many red orbs, and you can then evolve into Rast. If you actually don't want Rast, you have to wait like 4 minutes before you can then turn into Blue Kayn instead. But there are a lot of melee champions on the side of G2 Arctic. It's only the Orianna and the Sivir that Spooky can use to evolve. So just a little bit of harass here and there. That might not seem like a lot, but it does help. It does help on someone like Kayn who wants to get that, the evolution. Oh, he's drowsy though. He's sleepy.
Yeah, he's sleepy. Koldo gonna get knocked up by the Sion here. Here comes the fight. The shockwave comes through. Spooky forced to dive into Koldo to buy some time, but he will drop as Koldo picks up the kill. Arctic did not want to let that Rift Herald go down for free, and now VZZ again forced to flash. Oscarinin just absolutely monstering this AD carry. But they will get the Rift Herald and get out, so they at least got the neutral objective there.
They do get the neutral objective, but they did lose Spooky. It's not the end of the world. I think as far as trades go, that's okay. And when you get that Rift Herald down, you are going to get a little bit more gold back into your pocket to try and help stabilize the early game just a teeny weeny little bit. Because right now, you know, you're pretty far behind. It's like a 3k gold deficit at 12 minutes. As you mentioned, SuppUp playing versus Misfits Premier, who are probably the best early game team we have here in EU Masters. Did get thrashed in the early game, but still managed to find a way to win. So it's definitely not particularly unfamiliar territory for these guys. But either way, it's still not a position you want to find yourself in. No. Also, I'm worried here for the Aatrox. Oscarinin is just absolutely popping off this game. He's going to be terrifying.
Spooky again, forced out of the fight, this time flashed. Koldo getting the better of him in these engages, and we'll pick up the River Scuttler.
That's a bit of a problem, isn't it? Now, when you're falling behind, you don't have huge amount of access to basically anywhere that isn't inside your jungle, and depending on how far you fall behind, even the jungle becomes off limit for you. Not great for a champion like Kayn, who wants to scale up, especially building this assassin build. As you can see, I mentioned it from his runes, but even from his items now, that's going to be the Prowler's Claw most likely. Got that man immune coming through as well. But if you're playing an assassin and you're behind, or not, honestly, not even just behind, but if you're not in a favorable position, then it's really hard to play assassins, right? You really want to be playing from a position of strength, and Spooky's not going to be doing that this game. He's going to be struggling a teeny little bit.
Yeah, that's the problem. But it's not only Spooky; it's also Two. Like, you know, twohoyrz in the mid lane.
Yeah.
He's got to be really careful, because he also needs to be looking to play from a position of power. Now he's 0-0-0, but his team is falling behind, and so that gives you the element of, okay, well, I don't have the gold to really accelerate, but also they have more gold to deal with me and more experience to deal with me. And that's going to be another problem when you're running like a double assassin comp in this sense. Plus the Samira kind of acting as a semi-assassin in some of these team fights.
Oh,
Spooky
boy.
just going to get slept up again. He has to be careful. The shockwave comes through. He's bopped, absolutely bopped by Koldo. And they get punished for even just dropping the Rift Herald in mid lane.
At least Rift Herald got some of the plates right there. That would have been an absolute disaster if Rift Herald got dropped and nothing happened. Supa could be in a bit of... No, he was in a bit of a pickle, but he's going to be able to walk away from that one, no problemo. Spooky now, 2 deaths to his name. Almost a 4k deficit here against G2 Arctic. And with this dragon spawning in 30 seconds, you know, G2 Arctic are looking to put that vision down, move through the jungle. You've got to be a little bit careful here if you're SuppUp. Not going to get dove, however, just going to be setting up for that dragon play.
Yeah, Koldo's been very impressive so far, just being able to just set up those kills, combine with his mid laner, get a couple of cheeky little combos off, and has punished Spooky pretty heavily in some of the engages that we've seen come through. And this was a risk. I think this was a relatively risky comp for SuppUp to run. Like there was a finite window where you really need to accelerate and get ahead, and you want to be ahead to transfer into a 1-3-1. You want to be ahead to actually be able to function in team fights. And right now they're behind. Now you did say, like, if this gets to a point in the later game where, you know, the gold difference is negligible and doesn't mean that much for the stage in the game, that there is always the chance for Spooky and twohoyrz to just essentially jump in and eliminate the key targets. But it's feeling less and less likely from what I'm seeing right now.
Oscarinin might be caught out here.
Yeah, he gets double stunned up, will be forced to flash away, dived on by Spooky, but still survives.
He's safe.
And Oscarinin just happily under his own tower. A very heavy commit from the SuppUp team with no outcome, and they may even end up losing this bot lane tower.
Unfortunately, though, for G2 Arctic, I mean, it was perfect the way Oscarinin played that, and he survives, and that's brilliant. But they dedicated members to kind of counter that play top, when really they should just be in bot side. They could have got the dragon by now, and they could be pushing in, crashing waves under mid and under bot instead. But that's not going to happen. Now, klowny actually fancies his chances.
Yeah, has to be a little careful. Supa will just dive away. I think he has the Gale Force already, right? So he's able to just picked up the Gale Force and can get out of that duel with the tank with the Bramble Vest, and the Sunfire Age is finished up. So that's not something you're going to win as Sivir at this stage in the game.
Oh, gotta be a little bit careful there, G2 Arctic. Obviously, AD carry and spawn, jungler at dragon. We don't have too many people up there. But as you know, 50 minutes into this game, pretty decent lead here for G2 Arctic, and I kind of just want to emphasize or maybe like re-attack the draft here, because I don't think I really appreciated it when we were actually in draft, but now that you're watching it out in game, like this draft from G2 Arctic is just so smart, because you have great team fighting tools, you have good scaling. I don't think like Akali and Kayn can really do a huge amount this game. You can itemize into Zhonya's as well, which is absolutely perfect, especially versus Kayn, who does physical damage, and you can time the Zhonya's with a lot of his burst combo. But the Aatrox pick specifically, I really like, because I think if you send anyone from SuppUp into a side lane, they're not going to be Aatrox. Like if Akali wants to go into a side lane, like, I mean, Kayn probably doesn't want to side lane too much, but either way, like you don't really have any glaring weaknesses with this comp anymore. And I just think that the way they drafted it and the way they adapted towards the end of the draft with their last 2 picks specifically with Sivir and Aatrox, In hindsight, I think that was really smart.
Oscarinin is the subject of a potential 4-man dive here. Now, I really hope that G2 Arctic either just go for mid lane tower heavily or try and invest in that second Rift Herald, which has spawned. It does look like Koldo's actually made his way down, though. And that the entire plan has been foiled, and Oscarinin will just be able to safely farm under his own tower.
Yes. I guess, like, SuppUp are kind of feeling the pressure where they have to start trying to make some plays here. But unfortunately, you know, if it doesn't work out like that, you lose quite a lot across the map. There's a free farming top lane there for the Sivir. They're able to push in the mid tower as well, or pushing the minions under the mid tower, so you're missing out some golden experience there. You've now lost control of your topside jungle too. I mean, I understand why SuppUp feel like they have to go for these plays, but it's pretty risky at this point, because if you know, you're already behind, and if you do fail this, then you are going to be even further behind. It's definitely not going to help your chances. And Oscarinin isn't an easy target to attack by any means. He's pretty hard to take down.
The gold lead is now at 5,000. That's kind of crept up on us in a little bit, Foxdrop. Like, that gold lead has just essentially appeared out of thin air and really has come through the pressure on these neutral objectives and just good farm and denying of minions away from the enemy. Now, SuppUp are just desperate to go for this dive onto Oscarinin. He has got the gold drinker here, so the teleport coming through. They are really committed. It's a 5-man dive. This guy ain't escaping. But they will get the bot lane tower for it as well. I think they end up trading top lane tier 1 at the same time and the Rift Herald. So, I mean, you can assess whether you think that's worth or not.
I'm gonna go ahead and say maybe not. I think that's a lot. That's a lot put in right there. You lose 2 towers for it, including the mid tier 1, which is obviously a very important tower because it unlocks the map the most. You also take away that Rift Herald, as you mentioned, so you're gonna be able to use that as this game goes on. I mean, you did get him, to be fair.
You got him.
You got him.
You absolutely got him. I mean, you tried a couple of times.
That was just like, that seemed personal. I don't know. Like, I don't know. How dare he exist? How dare he exist? The audacity of that Aatrox right there to just live and breathe. SuppUp, Revan, none of that.
Well, I'm trying to think why they committed so many resources into that twice. Whether they thought the bot lane tier 1 was of, you know, a high importance, where they felt like they needed to take it before they could rotate somewhere else. But they lose a lot for it. They lose 2 tier 1s in the mid and top, and they also lose Rift Herald. Now, I think they might be able to trade back onto this top lane tier 1. I think Orianna is in the wings to potentially clear this wave out, and I believe SuppUp know it. So they're just going to back off here. But I'm struggling to see where the worth was. Like, where you type in all chat and say, okay, worth. Oh, SuppUp maybe a little bit too aggressive here as klowny dives into the back line, trying to get the knock-up on SuppUp, but will not find it now. Wachon on the Alistar, buying time in the back line. Oscarinin there as well, taking down Spooky, who is absolutely down to a low HP. Sion will back out. An aggressive engage from SuppUp, just swatted away by G2 Arctic. They're having none of it.
Surprisingly, no one dies in that exchange right there. That was very aggressive there from SuppUp, looking for that practice play, thinking they caught Super out position. And to be honest, I guess it kind of did, but thing is, it's Sivir with the spell shield. She has her ultimate, so she runs really, really fast. And she also had both her flash and her heal. Yes, those are now down. So if you want to go for a similar play in the future, then Sivir is definitely going to be a bit more vulnerable. But either way, I do kind of respect it though from SuppUp, because you have to try these things. Like, you've got a team that wants to pick people out of position. If you are looking to find any real success, you're not going to win these like group top fights or these extended fights either. So if you can pick up the Sivir, that's brilliant. You know, that's definitely a way that you can get back into this game. You know, pick up that golden experience, and also, you know, it was right before Dragon spawned, so they'd be able to take away that drag too. But you know, just a little bit too far behind. Not going to work for them.
I'd love to see the gold toggle to see where a lot of the gold is sitting for G2 Arctic right now. There is a sizable lead in the top lane, a sizable lead, actually pretty much just a sizable lead across the board.
It's pretty equal, yeah.
Yeah, everyone's got a little bit of a gold advantage here for G2 Arctic. A lot of it, I think, coming in the jungle and the top lane. But I mean, G2 Arctic just looking relatively strong everywhere at this point in time. As we said, though, SuppUp have been able to come back from these pretty dire situations. They did it versus Misfits Premier. but G2 Arctic have a really strong scaling teamfight style of comp. Now, this is an interesting teleport. Fresskowy knows.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, he knew he was in danger. He just runs.
It was fast as hell, man. You see that? He just TPs in, presses W, and he's... Whoa. He just speeds on out of there. He's going to be safe, but I'm not quite sure about SuppUp.
Yeah, we can see
in a bit of a pickle.
Koldo looking for the engage. Now Wachon trying to find the headbutt pulse combo. He's already... Oh, no! But he does headbutt into the wall here. The trample's still going, trying to get the stun onto VZZ. They're desperately chasing down Spooky as Koldo goes for the double sleep into Shockwave combo again. And Fresskowy and Supa pick up kills. They are absolutely on fire right now.
They're running away with this game, and that might just be the Baron as well at this point. 23 minutes in. Spook, you know what? I'm telling a massive like, so I threw down the Rift Herald instead. Maybe too much here, G2 Arctic.
Yeah, I mean, they're going for the double assassin onto Supa, who does get shut down by Spooky now, but I believe that both Spooky and twohoyrz are going to be in a little bit of a rough scenario. The shutdown! Wait a minute! How did Akali even do that? That's just purely illegal. That should not be possible. Come on, man. Come on.
I'll be totally honest with you. I was watching Spooky because I was like, this guy's gonna die. This guy's gonna die. And then she died. Like, Koldo died. What? I don't even know what happened right there. But I do think, you know, what the best thing about that play right there, not just about getting the shutdown, that was nice, but keep your eyes for the end of this play. Something even better happened. Wachon, they're not really able to get the perfect combo, but it was enough. You know, it was enough. Yeah. It's something. But yeah, the flash in from Koldo here. Whoop! There it is. Put him down to sleep. Get that shockwave. Oh my goodness, there's a bounce house there. That's a pretty strong combo. That's pretty crazy. And I honestly think at this point, G2 Arctic should run to the Baron. I mean, Spooky is alive, but they opt not to do that. And instead, you know, as we saw in this previous play with when Sivir lost both her summoners, it means now that she can't defend herself. But just watch what happens here. 2hours just, yeah, okay, just gets him. But then this is the beautiful part. Ready? The Zhonya's into. There it is. The thumbs up coming through from 2 hours. There it is. The best part about all that play right there. He knows it. They know it. Thumbs up. Go next.
Still SuppUp fighting. I mean, they've cut that gold lead down to about what, 4K, 4 and a bit.
Yeah.
Going to lose a little bit more in favor of G2 Arctic here as they pick up that second tier in the top lane. We've got a split pushing Orianna right now, but SuppUp just pushing down mid. Klowny starting to become pretty tanky. He's tanky enough to just dive into the middle of the G2 Arctic roster, but they will just laugh it off, walk away, and Klowny couldn't find the engage.
A good way to judge the strength of a team in a game, how far ahead they are, is to see how champions operate in situations they shouldn't be able to operate in. For example, in this game, the Orianna playing the split push, the Orianna playing the solo lane, and getting that tower. The problem is that SuppUp should be able to answer that with either Kayn or Akali or collapse in some way, but you can't really, because Fresskowy is just that far ahead right now. He's just that strong. And that, again, really sucks for SuppUp and really obviously limits the kind of things that you can do in this game. I mean, how do you find picks on the people when they're just that much stronger than you? And if you're ever in an outnumbered situation, then you're always going to have to run away. And things are looking very dire here, not just because of the game state, but also just from looking at the team comps and thinking about how SuppUp can get back into it. I think it's going to be very, very hard for them to find a window this game, get those assassins rolling.
Yeah, and we kind of said it from draft as well. Like, if they fall behind in this game, if they don't get a good start, you're going to end up getting outscaled. And yeah, okay, the mechanics of a team fight may work, that you're able to pick up Fresskowy or you're able to pick up Supa and just kill them off quickly. But that right now hasn't worked out for SuppUp. They haven't found those angles. Like 2hours and Spooky have found it really difficult to get onto their targets consistently. We saw a little glimpse of it in that previous engage in the top lane, but that's the first time that we've really seen those two marry together to actually take out the same target and blow them up. And G2 Arctic, I want to remind you, they need this win. Like, this team do not go through groups without this win. whereas SuppUp still have a few chances here and there, and you can see SuppUp going for the engage. They're diving straight onto the backline. Spooky already forced to use the ultimate as Wachon is just buying time for his team. The Magnet Storm is big, but no one's there to follow up. 2hours still can't get onto the backline. Desperately diving away in his shroud, and now VZZ going for the big play. 2hours jumps in, but it's only the support. That's not who you want. G2 Arctic are on a roll right now, and they are steaming through the SuppUp lineup.
That's going to be 3 kills just for the one, plus the third dragon being taken up. Only one more dragon until that Infernal Soul. And if G2 Arctic didn't look scary now, they're definitely going to look terrifying once that goes down. There's now 5 more minutes for SuppUp to really pull something out of the bag and to salvage this game. But it's looking really, really hard to do that. Anytime they try it, they get shut down just like in this team fight. This is the engage here, trying to kind of catch people a little bit split. SuppUp's not in the perfect position, but it's perfect enough because you just really can't get to him. It's really tough if you're playing these assassins to jump onto the Sivir, who's really your only good target when the rest of G2 Arctic exists and they're around to stop you, because you can't really go for anyone else. You know, it's like you got 2 assassins on your team and only one good target. Double Zhonya's come through now from the mid and jungle on G2 Arctic too. It's so hard to play this team comp if you're SuppUp, and that's not even considering the fact that they're 6k goal behind. It's just so hard. It's just a very, very difficult game for these guys to win now.
I think, again, you know, when Spooky's forced to use his ultimate early, you can see how rough that is for when you're trying to execute specific targets, especially as Blue Kayn. Like, they used it on Wachon in that previous fight. They threw it on the Alistar and he just shrugged it off. Like, the only time we've seen this work out is when 2hours and Spooky have been able to just jump on Supa together, burn their ultimates and take him down. And you know, and Fresskowy is going to be even harder as a target because he's got the Zhonyas, so that's going to eliminate a lot of that potential burst as well. So as you said, like, Supa is the only target where you can actually stand up and say, all right, let's kill him and maybe we've got a chance in these team fights. But SuppUp just really struggling, and also because they're so far behind, it's not like they could just go into a 1-3-1. I mean, I know they're in a 1-3-1 right now, but you're not going to get much done from this 1-3-1 because G2 Arctic can just group up and take objectives. They just say, well, we're strong enough to fight you at Baron, so come fight us.
Yeah, precisely what G2 Arctic are deciding to do with this Baron being up. You just walk into the top side jungle and you get that vision down and you prepare. You make it so that SuppUp have to face check you in that fog of war. And when they do that, you pounce on them. You got a lot of tools from the side of G2 here to punish SuppUp if they face check you, whether it's the Alistar engage, whether it's like a shockwave or something. Basically, Sivir presses R and you just turn and burn, right? And this is a thing now. Rock and hard plays here for SuppUp. We'll see what G2 decide to do.
They didn't want to commit to the Baron. They didn't feel confident enough to do so. Spooky was managing the aggro around Alistar and Aatrox nicely, just saying, well, I'm not going to go in just yet. I'm going to buy my time. But here comes the Sion straight onto Koldo, who's forced to flash. Now Wachon pops his ultimate in the middle of the fight. He's the only one there, and you can see SuppUp are reluctant to burn their damage on the Alistar that has that ultimate ready and raring to go. Oscarinin now diving on to the Sion, who gets isolated and blown up, and SuppUp just left him for dead. Spooky now on the wrong side of the rift. Should get chased down by Koldo and team. That might then allow them to transition into Baron 2.
Spooky shouldn't be long for this world right here, but he is Blue Kayn. Surprisingly slippery champion, but I'm not sure he's going to find a way out of this one. He tried to get to the wall. He tried, man. He tried. It just wasn't to be. That's got to be the Baron right there with the jungler falling down as well. Again, a play that SuppUp initiated, trying to catch G2 Arctic a little bit out of position. Oscarinin had gone, was walking towards that bot side, trying to catch that bot wave and take care of his side lanes, but he's still at his TP, so he's able to join, and the Sivir ulti with that group top team fight, as we mentioned, straight from the draft. Very strong team fight in that situation. Just running them down, gonna get that Baron at the end of it as well. And now I want to see 1 minute 15 until the dragon. That's Infernal Soul for G2 Arctic. This could be the death knell for SuppUp.
And I feel for SuppUp because their comp specifically, you know, it had a good win condition. You know, if you're able to snowball, if you're able to get these assassins rolling like the Blue Kayn and the Akali, you could actually take on Arctic in team fights until a certain point in the game, because you could just throw your assassins in there with Sion to run distraction, and you could kill the important members. Because, you know, if you look at it realistically, the important members of G2 Arctic are Fresskowy and Supa. Once they're dead, then the team fight's kind of dead. but they just were never able to get that rolling. They were shut down too hard in the early game. Their bot lane, I think, a little bit let them down in some of these early engages.
I think it bang on, honestly. Like this is the problem. Is once G2 Arctic get ahead, I think, oh my goodness, yeah, like it's just really hard for SuppUp to play, and they're using that dragon there as a bait to get the inside track into mid. This is really smart for them, but it's going to be an engage from SuppUp.
It's a long-range Sion engage. He drives by, not interested in finding it. And G2 Arctic are now going to turn back and say, no, we wanted to fight. And Oscarinin just on that front line, threatening Spooky. He's got a 3-level advantage over Spooky right now. That is a scary Aatrox in the top lane. And Arctic feel comfortable just go straight on to this dragon. I mean, SuppUp, though they need to fight this, they have to look for the engage. And again, Sion on the front line. The Decimate comes down, but only lands onto Koldo. And klowny is already dead. Fresskowy picks up the kill. There was a Magnet Storm in the backline, but no one to follow up on it. And Spooky and twohoyrz trying to go in, but it's not enough. twohoyrz will drop down. Great pulverize. And I'm sure G2 Arctic can either just take the dragon or win the game.
Just go end the game. Come on, that's rude. Why are they even trying to do the dragon at that point? There it is. 33 minutes into this game. There we go. That's more the energy I want to see right here from you guys, G2 Arctic. It's gonna be the mid inhib falling. The Nexus tower's going as well, soon to be the Nexus. And G2 Arctic, they're gonna find their first win in Group B of EU Masters.
They'll take those Nexus towers down. They'll take down the Nexus. But what's not going down is their hopes. They have a real chance still at making it out of this group, and this win was absolutely necessary for them. As G2 Arctic, as you said, pick up their first win in our group stage. It was a pretty convincing win as well. I never really felt like at any point in that game that SuppUp were in control. SuppUp were never really able to execute on either their 1-3-1 or the way that they wanted to approach these team fights, Foxy.
Yeah, I think for G2 Arctic, it was just a lot of positives to take from that game. You know, they were winning at stages of the game where I don't think they really should have been winning. They really just outclassed their opponents, which is a lot more of what we were expecting from this team coming into group stage, especially from what we saw of them domestically and in the play-ins. And for SuppUp, you know, they found success with these team fighting comps and being able to kind of bundle in and fight. Didn't really draft for that this time round, and so when they did fall behind, it was a lot harder for them to get back into the game.
Yeah, well, we are going to go to a relatively short break. When we're back, we will break down that game a little further. Before we head on to our second game of the night, it is that premier matchup in Group B between Ago, Rogue, and Misfits Premier. So don't go anywhere. We'll see you soon.
nothing.
Welcome back to the European Masters. We have just seen G2 Arctic keep their Group B hopes alive with a win over SuppUp. And honestly, they did it in relatively dominant fashion. It was a confident performance from them. They played to their win conditions and they really shut SuppUp down from the very beginning.
Yep, start to finish, really impressive game for G2 Arctic, and it's the kind of game that you want to have to get that first win, because this was a team that was 0-3 so far in the groups, and if they want to make it out of groups, then, you know, getting off to a good start, really, really important. And the good start, not just from this game one, but right from the beginning of game one. You can see here, like, a bit too aggressive from the side of SuppUp in this early trade, getting some 2 easy early kills. And really from that point on, considering you're a scaling team comp, I think G2 Arctic were in the driving seat, and all of the skirmishes, all of the fights, like the one you're seeing here, just fell into their favor.
Yeah, I mean, Koldo and Fresskowy just able to constantly sync up in these team fights. Honestly, you could tell from SuppUp that they were frustrated, that they couldn't actually get to their target. Like, you can see 2 hours and Spooky nowhere near the target that they actually need to be killing here, which is Supa. And Fresskowy just able to use the Zhonya's as well to mitigate and manage a lot of the burst that he would be coming his way. I really feel like SuppUp needed to get off to a better start if they would stand a chance in this game.
I think a better start would have helped a lot. I also think they gave themselves limited options through their draft. And with all of those things combined, then, you know, yeah, once you fall behind, it's just really, really hard to execute. And you can see in these team fights, exactly as you mentioned, like, targets, like the Assassin's not really able to get onto the priority targets, but it's not really a flame from SuppUp. It's just really hard for them to do that. And G2 Arctic played really well as well to, like, protect their carries and execute their team fights really nicely. You can see that goal graph, not really too much going in the favor of SuppUp in that game. They're going to hope to, you know, forget about this one, reset, go into the next game and hope it will be better.
Yeah, I mean, SuppUp still have a very good shot at getting out of groups here, although they do have 2 strong opponents left in this group with the form of Rogue and Misfits Premier. They have beaten Misfits Premier. They beat them last week, so there is definitely a good shout for SuppUp and the Balkans to still have that team exiting groups. But for G2 Arctic, that was a must-win game for them, and they did do it. So they are now 1-3. They basically need to win every game from this point onwards to give themselves a realistic shot. But you start confident, you start strong, and you take that motivation into those next games, which would be, again, against the same kind of opposition that SuppUp has to play, the form of Ego Rogue and Misfits Premier. Now, speaking of those two, that is our next game coming your way. Misfits Premier versus Ego Rogue. Now, we saw them play up against each other last week. And Misfits Premier came out on top. It just felt like a bit of a stylistic difference between the two teams that Misfits Premier were able to kind of, I guess, execute on, and also to find that weakness in Ego Rogue's game.
I was expecting it to go exactly the way it went, with a little bit of an asterisk. Misfits Premier are our best early game team in EU Masters, and Rogue are one of our slowest teams, but very effective once they get to that late game. Misfits Premier came out with a bang, really strong early on. And then Rogue stalled it out, got some Baron steals, some Dragon steals, found some picks. And I was thinking, okay, they're stalling it out. We're going to get to their late game. And then this is where Rogue starts taking over. But unfortunately for them, Misfits were still able to keep up that pressure and never really lost full control of the game, were able to beat them. But either way, setting up for this now, this rematch here, I'm expecting a lot of things, because I think the first game that they played was, for me, like the most entertaining game we've had in the entire EUM. It was ridiculously action-packed, loads of high moments, and if they can deliver just like a tenth of what they gave us before, I'm going to have a load of fun on this one.
Yeah, and it's 2 major regions as well, the LFL versus the Ultraliga. That was the rivalry of the European Masters in 2020, and we get to see that in action once more. That game is coming up. We're going to go to a short break, and when we're back, we should be jumping into Champion Select.